Hey guys, I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and we're taking a look at Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. Well, there's not a lot to be said about Scholar of the First Sin that will vary from the original Dark Souls 2. Essentially, at least for PC players, I can sum it up like this. Scholar of the First Sin is Dark Souls 2 with changed up enemies and item locations, and even more of the same ambush tactics we all came to despise the game for. As for console players, they will get a significantly better performance out of the game with more impressive visuals. Unfortunately for PC players, the improved lighting system is not the original advertised system, and it doesn't even look as good as some of the mods you probably had for the original Dark Souls 2. Even more unfortunate, you cannot carry over saves from one version to the other, although I do understand why they made this choice. With so many changes to weapon, armor, and other item and enemy locations, there wouldn't be sufficient parity between the saved game files to interchange them. Sadly, From Software has failed to fix a lot of the issues that plagued the first game. As of the original writing of this review, I was going to talk about the fact that the durability glitch was still a problem. This was a glitch where, at 60 frames per second, the durability of your weapon drained a lot faster than it would at lower frame rates. They've actually fixed this issue. However, they haven't fixed the myriad of other issues facing the game. From Software's failure to fix a wide variety of issues, including hitbox issues and hit detection issues, show that the B team has its priorities mixed up. And yes, I understand that the term B team is hotly disputed as a meaningless insult, but I think it's actually a valid term. When you think about the term B team, it simply means that there's a different team working on it. I know that technically you can use the term B team as an insult, but you could refer to them as the Dark Souls 2 team. It would still be the same thing. Now with that out of the way, let me state very clearly, if you didn't like Dark Souls 2, then Scholar of the First Sin won't do anything to change your mind. In fact, the increased number of enemies, the placement of more powerful enemies in lower level areas, and the plethora of added ambush encounters are more than likely just going to make you dislike the game even more than you did before. To put it bluntly, as I often do, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin is just more of the same of what made Dark Souls 2 such a disappointing game. Furthermore, it's a perfect example of one of the things wrong with the modern gaming industry. While I can understand a first-time player picking the game up for a new console, any current players of the game should not even consider purchasing this pathetically lazy rehash. Swapped enemy and item placement with a few other tweaks is not worth paying for. And while I do realize there's a discount for current owners of the game on PC, that doesn't change the fact that it's not worth a payment at all. In fact, the original Dark Souls 2 is better, as many of the changed enemy placements just put incredibly powerful and annoying enemies in very early portions of the game, making Dark Souls 2 an even more frustrating experience than it was before. Scholar of the First Sin is a sad revelation that From Software is not above the cheap tactics used by other developers or publishers to cash in on minimal effort. So let me take this opportunity to somewhat amend my original review of Dark Souls 2 and point out that for a variety of reasons, I feel that Dark Souls 2 does not live up to the series standards. Unlike what I originally said in my first Dark Souls 2 review, I no longer consider the game a worthy entry in the Souls franchise and think it would be best if we treated Dark Souls 2 like the black sheep of the series. My sincerest apologies for jumping the gun and having way too many positive things to say about the game. I assumed that the game would grow on me, and that many of the annoyances were growing pains of the series, but unfortunately it wasn't like that. The game is just a subpar entry in the Souls franchise, and needless to say, the entire Souls series would have been better off had they just cancelled the game and never released it. It is, quite simply, a dirty stain on an otherwise amazing franchise. Let me end this little mini review by being very unequivocal in what I say here. Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, is not worth purchasing, and not for anyone. Regardless of whether you like the game or not, and regardless of whether you played the game or not. If you've never played Dark Souls 2 before and you absolutely insist on doing so, get the original. If you played Dark Souls 2 before, there's nothing here worth paying for. Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin is something that we should quickly forget and leave behind, and hope that From Software never repeats a mistake like this again. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and I'll see you next time.